Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much to EUCAIM team for organizing this, which I think is very important. As anticipated, I am a program manager at the European Innovation Council, and I am responsible for the Pathfinder challenge on generative AI for cancer. I will just, you can go to the next slide. I will just give you a very brief introduction to recall everyone what this challenge is about. If you want more details, we have given an info day at I think the 5th of April, which has been registered with a lot of questions, brokerage. So I invite you to simply Google info day Pathfinder Gen AI and you will go to the registration. So the first thing I wanted to just to talk about was, there is a keyword in the Pathfinder title of the challenge, which is agentic AI. And so what do we mean with this? I guess this is a buzzword which we heard a lot also at RSNA and a lot of scientific conferences. In this case, I took a definition on the website of NVIDIA because I thought it was the best one that reflected what I would like to see in the project which are going to be submitted, and which is that agentic AI refers to artificial intelligence system that possess autonomous decision-making capabilities. So this is very important, and this agent should be designed to handle complex cases, multiple step problems, by employing reasoning and iterative planning. Next slide, please. So the scope of this challenge is to support population level real world data, multimodal, multidimensional learning to enable streamlining tasks like determination of the best clinical pathway for cancer patient risk assessment, prediction of cancer disease progression, and assessment of personalized treatment. And at the same time, we would like to address data scarcity, biases, and privacy concern for the AI application. So explainability and all these things that are transversal to the subject. The specific objective of the challenge are mainly two. We have two areas. The first area is a technological area. In this area, we expect the project to I think you can click everything in Ignacio, then I can go through. So you can cover, let's say, at least one of the sub area that I have identified it. And in this case, for the technological area, we have uh, AI-based tool and architecture for integrating multidimensional and multimodal data. Then you have a second subtopic that is about medical data augmentation, so synthetic data generation. This is not only imaging, it can be genetics and so on. And then we have knowledge representation and integration, so tools that allow exactly knowledge representation and integration for medical knowledge. And the second area is a clinical area, which is exploiting information from area one, where we aim at developing autonomous agents for predictive diagnosis and personalized treatment in cancer. Please note that each project should contain at least one subcategory for the technological area and one from the clinical. Ideally, I would like to see as much as possible. So, for example, a project which generates synthetic data, then mixed with real world data, you that develops a tool for integrating multimodal and multidimensional data that has a kind of medical knowledge representation and integration of this data, because these things are very strongly interconnected, and then that it applies this at least for one of the two. Ideally, one would like to have end-to-end patient, so from diagnosis to treatment and even post-treatment. Next slide, please. So as I already mentioned here, horizontal to both area, all projects need to focus also on trustworthiness, bias, regulatory compliance and clinical validation, cost effectiveness and economic impact. Now, we are talking about a Pathfinder, so we don't expect the project to reach a CE mark at the end. Absolutely not. It will be a TRL4. But when you develop your agentic AI tools and architecture, you need already to start thinking about current regulatory framework, the MDR, the AI Act, how you think that your product, future product actually can fit into that. Item for cost effectiveness and economic impact. Of course, you cannot do, an health economic study, but you could already start thinking how a new, for example, clinical pathway based on personalized treatment could have impact, at an economic level. So what, if there is a positive return or not, potential at least. Next slide, please. Then I would like just to mention, I have a few slides more, that what is very important for the project that will be selected are the portfolio consideration. It means that we don't give money to a single project, like for example, we do in Pillar 2 and Pillar 1. Here in Pillar 3, so the Innovation Europe, Innovative Europe, we give money to portfolio of project, meaning that all the single projects that are funded under this call must work together under my leadership in a portfolio of projects. Why? Because we want to use the critical mass of the different projects to move the needle on these challenges a bit further. And the topic on which we will work together are defined together, but I already put some direction in the challenge guideline. Next slide, please. This is very important. This is how we are going to create this portfolio. So I will try to create this portfolio with the support also of external expert by using different categories. First, I will look at the type of cancers, which is in the proposal, meaning that ideally I would like to have, the largest different type of cancer addressed in the portfolio. The second, I will look at which clinical area has been covered. I told you, you are not obliged to select all the subcategories, but of course I need to have a good balance between diagnosis and treatment. Idem for technology. So I won't take only projects, for example, who do multidimensional and multimodal data integration. I need also synthetic data, medical knowledge representation, and so on. And last but not least, and that's why we are here today, I value very much access to existing infrastructure, data, and ecosystem. So what does it mean? It means that at European level, we have already given a lot of money to several infrastructure, including EUCAIM, and I really want to build on existing things. And in the guideline, you will see also that I refer to IHI project, Pillar 2 project, which are just normal project. For example, IHI are several colon synthetic data. It would be very good to build on that rather than starting from scratch. So in the portfolio creation, of course, the project covers the most or ticks the most of these boxes will be preferred respect to other. And then I think I have my last slide. If I'm not wrong, exactly. So the access to infrastructure and data, please look at what it is already existing. Today we are talking about EUCAIM, but there are other infrastructure like the TEF Health, Eurobioimaging. Very important are national cancer and screening registering and open database. And last but not least, I really would like to have this project as being clinical project. So you need to have a leading clinical institution focused in oncology. This is key. So projects which are kind of too much IT oriented or AI oriented without the clinical relevance might be scored less high than other who have a leading clinical institution in oncology at European level. And that's all I have to say. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm looking forward to project submission.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Federica, for that overview, which is extremely relevant and important for all of us. And we are really deeply being engaged on how to help researchers and physicians and patients at the end to have a precise medicine approach, no? Which is at the end what we are trying to do with all these initiatives. Now I will provide a short overview on the role of EUCAIM, how it started, and how we do envision this cancer image Europe platform to help researchers, innovators, users, and companies to develop all those solutions and agents for the best of medicine and science. I'm Luis Martí-Bonmati. I'm working here in Valencia, Spain, at University and Polytechnical Hospital La Fe, and I'm extremely proud to be the scientific coordinator of this infrastructure. So next one, please. This infrastructure was developed by the European Union as a funded project. The coordinator is the European Institute of Biomedical Imaging Research, EIVIR. So extremely linked to radiology, but also to research projects, mainly on fostering medical imaging in this precision imaging ecosystem. The consortium started with 76 partners, but we did have year 2 open call for new partners. And now we do have 94 partners in this huge consortium engaging most of the European countries. So really this is a pan-European, also pan-professional, because within those partners we do have hospitals, institutions, academia, companies, SMEs, and all the landscape of partners that are able to collaborate on the platform to construct an infrastructure that will help researchers, developers, and innovators. The consortium will finalize in 26. It was funded finally with close to 36 million euros, and extremely important, this is a flagship activity of the European Cancer Initiative. And in the next slide, I will share with you how it started. It started so many years ago with a network, the AI for Health Imaging Initiative, where 5 European projects, large ones, were discussing together on the main barriers, limitations, approaches, and biases, legal issues that we were facing when constructing research projects. Those projects were Chimeleon, Eucanimas, Procanceri, Incisive, and Primats, and they were approaching so many different aspects of research. And in the next slide, I will also share the partners and stakeholders we do have today. These are the 94 partners, and on the right part, we do have today more than 180 stakeholders. These are just some of them, just to provide you with an insight on who is here in the project, and also as stakeholders, how many institutions, organizations, and societies and companies are engaged on this, on the construction and the deployment of this infrastructure. On the next slide, I will now want to share the main goals of the infrastructure. First is to address the fragmentation of repositories. We have to reuse the data we already gathered to perform research, to perform further research with that data. And that's why we want to have an atlas of cancer images to allow AI to be trained on millions of cases and allow clinicians, researchers, and innovations the access to that huge number of images and with annotations, related data. And we want to do that to enhance diagnosis and treatment through imaging biomarkers and models based on AI tools, mainly to develop and benchmark those AI tools and models on this precision medicine approach, and to create also a federated, secure processing environment to foster observational studies. Now, next one. This is the harnessing the power of data we envision. We will provide an infrastructure with data, tools, but also communities of researchers, because at the end, we want really to develop, promote, and transfer to market actionable biomarkers and models. Next one. This is the overview of the project. On the left part, you do have the central storage with anonymized data, defragmented, linking all the existing, let's say, repositories with data and medical images, but also we were willing not only to have this standardized and harmonized data repository, we were willing to link hospitals, screening programs, and also programs on data altruism to help researchers on this data harvest model to have access to new data sets that might be related to a specific clinical research questions. We want to fill the gap in knowledge. In the next one, next slide, we will share how this clinical environment is providing through data transfer or data sharing agreements the atlas of cancer images, where we do have both a repository of cases and also a federated approach where some partners and nodes are just providing data, not transferring the data, but allowing researchers to have access to that data and the computational resources we do need to train the research, the AI tools. In the next slide, I will share that we are following, of course, the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable requirements. We do have standards, NICOM, NIFTY on images, the DCAT-AP for the metadata, the common data models, and hyperontology on a unified framework. Next one. So those are tools we are providing to researchers. Yes, please keep moving just to share with you that we do have existing research collection, ongoing research projects, and new observational studies that data is transferred. These are just examples as reference nodes. We do have two main, one in Valencia and the other one in Rotterdam, or also on a federated node infrastructure, linking the different teams on this platform. Next one, please. Okay, these are the maturity levels we define within our platform. Three main. One, tier one is low compliance, is metadata. Then we have tier two and tier three based on the quality, on the digitalization of your data, and also on the requirements we ask for when not only transferring data, but also sharing data on this federated approach, which is something extremely relevant and important for EUCAIM. That means that if your institution is able to transfer data, that's perfect. If you want to keep power, we can work on the construction of a federated approach, as we will see later. Next, please. This is also the software marketplace we already installed in the platform. We do have so many tools and solutions on pre-processing and post-processing. Some of them are extremely relevant and important, such as quality control or harmonization of data, but also on machine learning models and analysis software for the developments. Next one. And these are the pre-processing tools we offer researchers and innovators on the identification, following all the legal and ethical aspects of the European Union, harmonization, trying to transfer data to a common framework where images are comparable, and improving the reproducibility of the results and the radiomics features extraction. This is one of the most important tools within the infrastructure. Also, we do have annotation tools, fairness tools, the fair evaluator, validator, and advisor. We also have data quality and curation tools, and we are linked with other European infrastructures like Quantum on the quality of data. Next, please. These are what we do envision, and we will see later on the data holders and data users benefits within EUCAIM, being part of this infrastructure, either as partners or as stakeholders or as users willing to use the data resources and communities we provide to the European landscape. You will be able to collaborate on multidisciplinary teams on your specific area of interest. Also collaborate on the guidelines and publications, simplify access and technical support to data tools and standards, participate on internal challenges, validation of AI tools, annotated data collections, also benchmarking of the AI tools, access to first notifications on research projects, collaborate with enterprises, contribute to the AI governance, simplify access to data, tools, and internal procedures within the EUCAIM platform, and being individuals and institutions recognized as part of the EUCAIM community and platform. Next one, I do think that was my last one.
1 minute.
Okay, this is just the stakeholders in EUCAIM, data holders, software providers, and management. Next, please. Becoming a stakeholder, please use our web page where all the information is there, and we will be more than proud to be engaged with you, either companies, academia, or institutions. Next one. And well, all the support from the EUCAIM team on the so many different aspects on technical, analytics, standards, accessibility, requirements, IT policies, and privacy, security, and legal procedures. Next one. And the benefits, no? Just researchers, innovators, physicians, and citizens, they are all welcome to collaborate and participate within the platform. Next one. And just the last one is that we will finalize the end of 26, and on 27 we are working on the expansion of the platform. Next one, to be part of an European Digital Innovation Consortium, the EDIC, with a legal entity within the European health data space as an authorized participant on a secure processing environment. And we are extremely proud that already have pre-notified the European Commission on this. Next one. And that was everything from my part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luis. I think this is my turn. So I'm Ignacio Blanquer. I'm professor at the Technical University of Valencia. I'm acting as the EUCAIM Central Hub Technical Coordinator. So my presentation in this 12 minutes will be to what are the services and the resources that we are offering you to, through the EUCAIM platform. Very briefly reminded what Luis was already stating, the platform is open for research centers that want to access data, centers that have data and want to preserve the data for future collaborations and future analysis, partners that have developed software tools and want to test the tools or train the tools or improve the tools or even develop the tools within the platform using the data that we have, and other stakeholders that want to be engaged in the collaborations. So first, let me talk about the data. We are in a, preliminary state. We are not we have not reached out our goal yet, but we are progressing quite steadily. So we have a total of 64,000 subjects right now, which is close to more than 80,000 studies in the order of few tens of millions of images distributed across 5 providers with different usages. We have data sets that are for training, data sets that are for benchmarking, and which are not being exposed, and access to the data is restricted. The data is homogenized using the hyperontology. The current version of the hyperontology is 1.3 and is publicly available both in the application that you see in the screen and also in the Zenodo repository and the document that describe the clinical variables for prostate, colorectal, breast, lung cancer at this moment. And we will extend to have other terms and following the 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘀𝘈𝘊𝘰𝘮𝘯 standards. So the user journey that we have developed in the context of EUCAIM is shown here. So we have first exploration of the data available. We have a central catalog and a federated search explorer that manages and provides a detailed view of the data that is available in the platform. And then when a researcher identifies a data set of interest, can go to the next step, which is the request of access. As I mentioned before, access to the data is subject of an application that is evaluated by an access committee and has to fulfill the conditions of usage, terms of usage of the dataset. So once that this request to access a dataset is positively evaluated, a permit, which is basically an authorization that is registered in the life science authentication and authorization infrastructure, is prepared, and then the user can access the data through one of our ways. Let me go very briefly with a detail of the infrastructure. So we have this central hub. The central hub is the place in which the different components are linked. So you can have a coherent and comprehensive catalog, a capability of searching across the federation for the number of the aggregated information of the number of subjects and studies that fulfill some filtering criteria, access negotiation, and a distributed processing, which is on beta version at this level. The providers can, as Luis was mentioning, link their own nodes or transfer the data to the reference storage, and I will make a little more of detail on the secure processing environment that we provide in the platform. Luis mentioned the part of the tiers of compliance. Let me be very, focus this with respect to the central hub services. Data set that fulfill level 1 means that the data, the metadata, the aggregated metadata is available in the registry. Data sets that fulfill the tier 2 means that they can be searched furtherly with, getting the number of cases and studies that fulfill the inclusion criteria, and those that are on tier 3 are fully compliant with the hyperontology and can be processed either in a secure environment or in a distributed environment. So very briefly, the catalog follows the 𝘏𝘰𝘀𝘈𝑎p schema. This is the specification of the metadata that is being defined in the construction of the European health data space. It's being evolved, and we base on the 𝘏𝘰𝘀𝘈𝑎p and add some additional fields that are required for medical imaging data and cancer imaging in particular. And we expose also fair data points so you can refer very easily to the data set that we have. We also fulfill in some of the cases the publication of Zenodo of the metadata, so we can make all the aggregated public information of the data set available for citation and referencing. Then we have the federated search. This is the more insight, you can more insights about the information. So you have 27 searchable items that are not all of them, but some of them depending on the data set available. And then you can query the exact number of studies and subjects that fulfill the inclusion criteria. For example, if you search for some pediatric MRI images, you can also define the age, the modality, the cancer type, and then you will get in real time the number of subjects that fulfill this criteria, and then you can filter which are the data sets that can be more relevant for your analysis. Then we have the request access. All the tools are being provided by our consortium and tools that are being used in production in other infrastructure, 𝘊𝘰𝘰𝘳𝘢𝘊𝘰𝘮𝘊𝘰𝘮𝘮, bibliography, and the rest. And we have this negotiation schema in which all the life cycle is implemented, and we can define some different levels of authorization. So we can involve directly the dataset owners in the workflow. All the services are being managed through a central platform, the dashboard, in which you can find all the information for becoming a user, data holder, stakeholder, software provider, additional information on how to access the platform, links to our webinar, etc. But also you can have a monitoring part in which in real time gathers the information about the tier 1, which are the data that is available in the catalog, and tier 2, those that are searchable in the dashboard, but also has the user library in which has the links to the data sets in which you have the access granted. So in this way, it's very easy for a user to, that has this access to go to the data sets and get some information on that, or process them. The last important component is the processing. We are having data for being processed, and we have provided 2 reference nodes in which the data holders that cannot have processing capability can store the data, and they are provided with connectivity to intensive computing system. In the case of the 𝘊𝘰𝘰𝘳𝘢𝘊𝘰𝘮𝘊𝘰𝘮 node, it is linked to the SURF supercomputing facility, and in the case of the UPV, we provide directly an integrated secure processing environment in which the data cannot leave the platform. You can access the data, you can visualize the data, you can process using our computing infrastructure, which is close to 1,000 cores, but you cannot take the data out. It provides a maximum level of traceability and data sovereignty for the data holders. In this way, we can provide more capability or more functionality to the developers in this case. And the tools is developed by UPV and giving through the data ingestion and visualization and some annotation tool. Right, in a snapshot, our secure processing environment is the same designed for data scientists, not for radiologists. What it provides is an access, virtual access to the files, to the subjects, to the studies that are included in the authorization permit. It means that if a user has only access to a set of studies, the user will only see those, right? It's very fine-grained in the level of the permissions. In this way, we can fulfill the requirements of the secure environments in Data Act and the HDS. We provide the capacity of exploring the data and running the processing on a set of batch queues powered by GPUs in which intensive computing can be performed. We have validated this in a previous project with 20 simultaneous external users that we had in competing in an open challenge. Finally, the last service, which is not in production, but it's being prototyped now, is the federated processing, which allows to process the data even if you don't have access to visualize it. There are some data sets that are being included in the federation without the right of exploring visually the data. You can only see a sample of the data to understand how it is organized. In this way, the federated processing runs the processing inside the data holders' facilities and retrieves the final result in a dashboard. This is being, as I mentioned, developed by BSc and University of Barcelona. So as a summary, what EUCAIM can offer is, in one side, data for developing and extending processing applications, the place that you want to customize to specific data want to develop or compare to other tools, a secure processing environment to run the process, so the data is securely managed there, a platform for long-term preservation of data. If you have data in your project that you are collecting and you want to preserve it for the long term due to the restrictions of the call or the agreements that you have for further analysis, EUCAIM can be used for that. And finally, we have data and software tools already prepared or customized for validating. So with respect to benchmarking data, in this way, you can compare to other, to several metrics that we have and see the specific behavior of your tools and the specific conditions and data. And that was all from my side, hopefully on time. And I pass the floor to the next speaker, which is Leo.
Hello, thank you very much, Nacho. So I'm a physicist by training, and I'm leading the computing and AI department within the biomedical imaging research group at the LAFE Health Research Institute in Valencia. And I'm contributing to EUCAIM as one of the AI researchers in the infrastructure. And I'm going to speak today about the contribution to multimodal AI research from EUCAIM side. Next slide, please. So first of all, I'm going to speak about a topic that I think we all worry a lot, which is data interoperability. It's one of the main topics that is always highlighted into the main challenges to actually do multimodal AI research. And here I wanted to show you some of the examples that from EUCAIM we are contributing to enhance this data interoperability. One of the examples is in the case of different medical images. How do we understand multimodal data? Of course, one concept is to understand that multimodal imaging data reflects different types of modalities in imaging. For instance, you can see here in the EUCAIM catalog, you can find different imaging modalities such as CT, MR, mammography, PET. You can also even find different annotations on these medical images. And this would correspond to the Tier 1 interoperability that already Luis and Ignacio have mentioned. Next slide, please. As well, you can find a Tier 2 interoperability in the EUCAIM platform in terms of the radiology and nuclear medicine imaging data. Within the EUCAIM federated search, you can actually filter by these different options. For example, here I'm filtering by magnetic resonance imaging, and you can see the studies per collection, the different collections that contain these studies, and how many subjects there are, and so on. Next slide, please. Now, if we go one step further, we find the data interoperability in terms of pathology image data and radiologic image data. So here we are working actively with BBMRI ERIC to actually be able to connect the different collections that we have in these two different infrastructures. So here you would have, for example, within the BBMRI ERIC catalog, how you could filter by this tag, for example, with or without radiology images. And the same thing you could do within the EUCAIM catalog, where you could filter with, in case you can see if these cases have or do not have pathologic image data. And the same thing, once we have managed to do this filter, we can go into the collection page and then find the name and the description and the link to the EUCAIM catalog of this particular collection that you have found through the BBMRI ERIC catalog, and the same thing on the EUCAIM page. Next slide, please. This would correspond, to Tier 1 interoperability, but we do not just want to stay in a Tier 1 interoperability for this, but we are also moving forward into Tier 2. And this is how we are envisioned, and we are working together with BBMRI ERIC. So what we would do here, we would be able to perform a federated search on the BBMRI ERIC platform or catalog, where you would see, you could filter different conditions based on these medical images, radiological medical images. And the same thing you could do on the EUCAIM federated search, where you would find specific data sets with pathology images that are linked and contain, for example, are based on specific filters such as, for example, breast cancer. As you can see here in the federated search in EUCAIM, you would be able to see the collections that comply with this filter and with this condition. Next slide, please. Also, other in other areas or medical areas that we are working with for data interoperability include the sensor-based data, for example, EEG data, where we would have also the connection with the radiological images, and, for example, with other omics data, such as genomics, metabolomics, and so on, where we are also working on basically on a tier 2 interoperability, where we could actually find data sets and collections through specific genomics conditions within the EUCAIM platform. Next slide, please. Okay, so once I've spoken a little bit about the data interoperability and all the different options that EUCAIM is working at the moment and can offer to help researchers and innovators, we are here. I want to show you a little bit more of the pre-processing tools that we have available within EUCAIM already. So these are tools that have been provided by the current partners, but the marketplace is fully open to any new contributors who would like to be involved with the infrastructure. So the idea here is that these are some of the pre-processing tools that we are using to actually enhance the quality of the current data in the EUCAIM platform. Here we have specific tools for the local node. So for example, like your node in your own hospital before sharing or connecting to the EUCAIM infrastructure. We have tools for data identification, fairness, creation, and then we have tools for to be used either in the central or the federated nodes connected to the infrastructure. All of these tools are there available for any researcher who would like to be engaged with the EUCAIM infrastructure and request access, for example, for a data set for any specific use case. Next slide, please. This would be the workflow of the pre-processing tools. So again, here you would have your local node in your hospital before connecting to the infrastructure. And here we would be helping you and assisting you in preparing the data. So the data is harmonized, standardized, and then it can be used for AI training or validation, benchmarking in a robust way. And here you would have all the technical support team that would be assisting you. And then after this, we would have two options, either to perform an ingestion to the central node. We would move into the box on the right. And here the data would be stored in the central node, where these tools that I just mentioned in the previous slide would be used to enhance the data quality. You also have in the central node a viewer where you can actually perform annotations, you can visualize your data. And then you have this secure processing environment that Ignacio talked about, where you can actually train models and perform inference. And then if you choose to just stay in a federated approach, then the data can be sent into this federated node where additional checks will be done in terms of quality to make sure the structure of the data is correct to enable federated learning. And then other users could access this data to perform their AI training and validation. Next slide, please. So this is a little overview of the conceptual, technical, and integration validation that we are performing at the moment. I just wanted to show you here as a quick highlight to say that for all these tools, we are performing validation at the conceptual, technical, and integration level with the different goals. We are collecting all the documentation. So all these tools are well documented and users can choose the tool based on the different requirements and performance that is listed in the platform. Next slide, please. And here I wanted to speak about the two main topics that EUCAIM is providing assistance. One of them is the development of AI models. Again, as the infrastructure per se to be able to train AI models. And these could be several examples in radiology. You can see here, for example, automated image interpretation, multimodal learning, integrating imaging with other types of data, synthetic data generation, as has been mentioned already today, and workflow optimization, for example, generating reports, automating segmentation, decision support, and even for the development of foundation models that can integrate different multimodal data, as it was understanding multimodality in the sense that we have been explaining for different tasks. Next slide, please. And here I wanted to highlight a couple of tasks. One could be for clinical decision support system, as Federica was mentioning. This in particular was in collaboration with a European project focused more on diagnosis, even though it could be also on treatment, of course. And here we were developing a clinical decision support for diagnosis the pediatric cancer and assigning a more personalized risk score, and as well tools for explainability. Next slide, please. Additionally, as you know now, everything around generative AI, different tools and the environment to actually generate, in this case, medical images based on a specific prompt based on clinical molecular information. Next slide, please. And the final bit I wanted to mention is the software benchmarking. Why this is very crucial? Because EUCAIM wants to provide an infrastructure where we want the AI models to be able to provide trust, which is crucial for adoption in healthcare. So here we want to evaluate data, tools, AI models, platforms. And for this, we are working with OpenEVench platform, which is the benchmarking portal from EUCAIM for data visualization, analysis, and evaluation. And some of the metrics we have been defining contain and include metrics regarding efficacy, performance, technical description, and also robustness in terms of stress tests, adversarial attacks, out of distribution detection, and extreme case analysis. This is the program for benchmarking that EUCAIM is working on, and once it's basically part of the infrastructure. Next slide, please. One of the crucial parts is the data set. So which data set we use for benchmarking? So within EUCAIM is part of our work in the benchmarking activities to select a multi-center representative data set for this, and taking into account different biases, undersampling, image harmonization, robustness, data quality, that it contains a high diversity of protocols, vendors, releases of the images, countries, demographic descriptors, comorbidities and risk factors, and also cover a large spectrum of the disease, to actually make sure that the benchmarking activities that we are hosting are reproducible and are robust, and then they can provide basically a clear guideline or guidance for adoption of AI. Next slide, please.
1 minute, Leo.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to highlight very quickly one of the examples we hosted within another of the European projects that we were coordinating. So in this case, we hosted this clinic in silico clinical validation, where we use a friendly platform to improve user experience for clinical validation. And next slide, please. Basically here we had different types of cancer, and what we were doing is to assess the trust of the AI system in performing different tasks regarding diagnosis, risk assessment, and so on for these different cancer types, and then compare this to how the clinician would do it without the AI. Next slide, please. What we saw here in a very nice visual way is how the different cancer types and the outcome that we were obtaining from this evaluation, if we had actually improved the user experience. So from the point of view of the clinician, and here we saw that basically the big majority of the cases and in the point of view of the users, they saw that their experience had improved and they could actually perform this diagnosis in a more robust and reproducible way. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is my final slide. So just as a summary on the benchmarking activities, we are here contributing to multi-centric data sets from new hospitals and clinical centers in Europe. We are performing benchmarking of pre and post-market AI solutions in our platform. And we are using or define guidelines and frameworks for benchmarking that includes all these different steps on validation: conceptual, technical, integration validation, dataset validation, performance validation, and clinical validation, taking into account trustworthiness, explainability, bias, and checking on bias and fairness, and also using all these pre-processing tools that I just mentioned to perform these stress tests on the AI solution, and incorporating all these data sets into the infrastructure for the post-market regulatory compliance. So that's everything from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. So now it's the time for 𝘗𝘪𝘐𝘗𝘓𝘁. Please, Ángel.
Hi everyone. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I am 𝘗𝘪𝘐𝘗𝘓𝘁. I am a biomedical engineer, founder and CEO of 𝘘𝘗𝘓𝘗𝘓. And basically, I will talk about the perspective from the SMEs, from the companies, and how we understand that the use cases and the engagement opportunities will be funneled within the EUCAIM initiative. So next slide. I'd like to start by what Professor Martí-Bonmati started stating at the very beginning, just to refocus the whole conversation on the patients. In the end, we need to end up developing like new innovations that might make Europe more competitive, definitely for our companies, and reaching clinical application of all the algorithms and AI models we are developing. If we want this kind of models that all the European companies are working on to succeed, we need to understand that they must be cleared as medical devices. So how can we make sure that EUCAIM is helping all these startups and scale-ups in transitioning from algorithms into medical devices? Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, thanks. So basically, in all the companies, we are working under a kind of strict regulatory framework. On one side, we must subject to ISO 13485. Mainly is the development process and the manufacturing process for medical devices. And in this case, we have what we know as the quality management system, the QMS, the well-known QMS. Within that QMS, the product realization is one of the parts. And of course, that product realization needs some inputs and features and characteristics and data, importantly. And finally, the output, this product and how it is validated. And the idea is, how can we leverage EUCAIM as much as we can in all these processes within the ISO. And on the right side, you might see the combination, the diagram, the Venn diagram of the different regulations we are working under right now. On one side, we have the medical device regulation, the GDPR, and the AI Act. In the intersection of the three is where we have to work in the smoothest way possible. That means that we must work following all the ISO requirements, developing the clinical evaluation reports on our products, at the same time making sure that we are managing personal data appropriately, and in parallel with the new AI Act, making sure we have like full traceability, transparency, and reproducibility of everything we are building. So next slide. So how can we measure that impact of EUCAIM in the medical device industry? Well, we understand that it must catalyze and promote the industry of medical devices for cancer and medical imaging. There was a question before related to rare diseases and rare cancers. We must understand also that EUCAIM comes after a series of success of European projects, including PRIMAGE. This was a project, for example, related to childhood cancer that Dr. 𝘚𝘬𝘪𝘮𝘳 was just showing one of the reports. That wouldn't have been possible without an European community putting together cases in a disease with a very low incidence as 2 patients per million inhabitants, as neuroblastoma has. So definitely EUCAIM will be also oriented to those companies that are working on rare disorders and making sure that it's not just the main indications of cancer and medical imaging, but pan-cancer. For that, we will also engage with equipment manufacturers and providers of PACS and EHR information systems. And what would be an ideal KPI to measure the success of EUCAIM? Of course, we cannot have this kind of KPI measurement right now, but we do anticipate in the coming 5 to 10 years to have a percentage of growth in the certified AI medical imaging devices in Europe during the post-cancer Image Europe phase. So we really expect to have a significant impact in the number of products cleared in Europe versus the era before EUCAIM. So next slide. And why? Because right now there is a barrier in the access to market. That barrier is mainly centered in the data access. Companies need to go on a hospital by hospital, researcher by researcher, partnering, developing projects to be able to create data sets meaningful enough as to train and develop a new AI model, a new product that has a high cost. I think if we click on the animation, yeah, we can see that according to this publication in JACR, you know, for every 1 billion in funding from venture capital, we are generating around 11.3 products, assuming a 6-year lag between funding and product approval. So that sets an average of around 88 million in funding per product. So we definitely, this is global data, of course, this is not just European data, but it's quite clear that we need to lower the cost, develop more products, and definitely low cost, more products means more access for patients and for doctors. So next slide. So thinking on a use case on how it's the manufacturing process that I guess so many of the companies attending this webinar will also be sharing. But in the end, we always start by research, having access to kind of population level data with data from so many patients, from which we start developing either retrospective or prospective clinical studies. We will extract candidates to become products. And finally, we will get regulatory clearance on those products and basically sell them to providers as single tests. And here we have a wide span of business models that go all the way from software as a service to pay-per-click and the likes. Next slide. So what is really the main set of assets that EUCAIM will be basically working on with the companies? First, we need to understand what is needed to catalyze the innovation process. Also, that companies need highly available cybersecure technical infrastructure with strong technical and organizational information security measures. We also need data sets compliant with data interoperability standards. Some of the companies are working with multimodal clinical data, and I was reading also in the questions on biopsy and pathology related questions, but we definitely need to integrate radiology imaging data with EHR, with pathology, with molecular biology, among others. We also need to have audit trail mechanisms, very important for inspections and for audits. And finally, for model training, companies really need, for the full transparency and traceability, to have anonymized data download under licensing agreements. And the manufacturing process requires that manufacturers have access to data to train AI models on an auditable and traceable infrastructure. And finally, as Dr. 𝘚𝘬𝘪𝘮𝘳 was also stating, for model validation, it will be very important to integrate AI modules as containers on the EUCAIM platform to have benchmark possibilities, to validate them, And even why not to use automated Gen AI techniques to generate like clinical evaluation report drafts nowadays. Can we move to the next one? So I wanted to stress what could be like a meaningful impact for a company on EUCAIM. On one side, we have on the top row kind of standard situation of a company that needs to take like 9 to 12 months from product ideation till all the data is collected and curated. Then we move into the manufacturing, training and validation, which can take 3 to 6 months. And then we go into basically once the product is ready for regulatory submission until clearance can take 12 additional months. So we are targeting like probably around 30 months for a company to take a new product from idea to market. EUCAIM is going to have a very significant impact in this process. On one side, it will streamline all the data gathering and curation through an EUCAIM access request. Then we will spend less time on the training and especially on the validation, thanks to the platform, totaling around 22 months versus the previous 30 before EUCAIM. So this is around 25 or 30% reduction in time, which taking into account FCX listing around 100 top medical imaging companies and startups in Europe, that will have an impact of around 300 million per year in savings for all European startups and scale-ups. This kind of saving means more runway, less dependence on VC funding, and more freedom for European companies in fostering new products. Last slide. So what is EUCAIM offering to innovators? First of all, access to large-scale multimodal cancer imaging data. It will be data sets from across Europe, MRI, CT, PET, mammo, all of them annotated, harmonized, and linked to clinical data in many cases, covering diverse patient populations, institutions, and imaging protocols, and enabling real-world AI model generalization across different scanners, populations, and clinical workflows. Also for the benchmarking and validation tools, companies that need it, they will have the chance to evaluate their models on external standardized data sets, generate that evidence that is needed for MDR, regulatory submissions, and also contribute and test models in a secure and auditable environment. And finally, frameworks and blind access data sets for the benchmarking and licensing. Also, EUCAIM will be providing support for CE marking and regulatory readiness, providing this traceability, audit trails, and a compliance-friendly infrastructure aligned with the AI Act. Then secure access via cloud and edge infrastructure, ensuring a fine-grained access to access control to the data sets, container-based model integration and testing within the platform, and then metadata harmonization using health DCAT AP schema and data sets following the FAIR principles that have been already discussed. And last but not least, and very important for the companies as well, the licensing frameworks and access control for the data usage. So this is kind of a summary of the EUCAIM offering for companies. And yeah, that was everything I wanted to share, and happy to take any question in the coming minutes.
Okay, so maybe we can, I don't know, Peter, if we leave the audience to ask, or we address the questions that are on the panel. What's the purpose now?
Yes, so we have some time, and I saw that there were also many questions already answered. So thank you for those who have answered in writing. There are a couple more that are open, and maybe we just go through them. So I will read them out, and whoever feels that they have a good answer, please just unmute and take the floor. So one question is from Anna that who asks, are startups automatically falling under the commercial use point for using data that is available in the cancer imager infrastructure?
Maybe I can start a bit. I mean, I think it depends on the purpose of the study, because an SME can be part of a research project that is non-for-profit. I think that you have to specify exactly what will be the use and the impact, and it will be analyzed. I mean, we are not following a strict mechanism, so every request that could have some flexibility are analyzed with the providers of the license, which are the dataset owners. So it may happen that in these cases, the dataset owners also allow these cases of use, these use cases. I don't know if the rest want to add anything else.
All right, thank you, Ignacio. We do have another question that's, I think, an easy one for Federica. Can a university from the United States be a partner in this grant?
So they are not able to receive funding. They are possibly allowed to be like an associated partner, but they are not eligible for funding. But for this, I would really recommend them to, or the person who asked the question, to contact the national contact points, because they have much more experience than me in the details of the framework. So from an administrative point of view, I focus on the content, let's say, so, but I think it's like this, but please to be checked.
All right, thank you. We also have a couple of questions that are more or less asking the same thing, and I think this is something that goes out to everyone in the EUCAIM consortium. Taking into account the Pathfinder call that we're discussing, how is the involvement of the EUCAIM project or Cancer Image Europe envisaged for this specific proposal? Maybe I can give a start from my end, and then other people can join in. I think what others have done so far, and I think what is also a good approach, is just to reach out and see, so we can discuss what you actually need. If you know your idea or your consortium is confident that they can follow all the documentation and the guidance that for instance Ignacio and his team have put out, and connect to the infrastructure technically, then we can of course make sure that we align, but there's no formal need for involvement from EUCAIM partners. If you say, well, we do need some technical help as well, then that of course then needs to be further discussed. What kind of expertise do you need? What partners do you need? What are you looking for? And then we can see if we can sort of broker something between members of the EUCAIM consortium and an applicant consortium for this Pathfinder call. But I think there's no sort of one-size-fits-all answer. The best way is just to reach out and really specify what you need, so we can see if that's something where documentation from our side is sufficient, or where actual involvement in your consortium would be beneficial. I'm looking towards Luis and towards Ignacio to see if that is in agreement with them.
Yeah, for sure, Peter, thanks. No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is, you can just use the platform or ask for engagement of the platform and partners. And we will be more than proud to propose engagements of the different partners who might fit your needs on your proposals, but final decision is of course on their part. I mean, this is just providing help, no?
Yes, thank you. Let's continue with another question regarding multimodal. So the question is, multimodal, that what does it only refer to different imaging modalities, or does it also mean other components that are usually stored in EHR or omics data even?
Yeah, like I can take this. Like based on the explanation we provided, we can understand multimodality in different ways. But as I am understanding also for the Pathfinder, like potentially you would want to link with other types of data if possible, to enrich your tools, to enrich your use case, to enrich your at the end your proposal. Like I guess, up to the researcher to understand as well what is the scope of exactly what they are aiming to do, the task, the goals of your project. And then what we were showing today, hopefully it's understood, is to showcase different examples where we are supporting multimodality within the EUCAIM platform. And of course, different image modalities is one of them, but we not only support this type of multimodality, but others, such as with other omics, genomic, metabolomic, with other type of pathology imaging data and so on. Of course, the main core, as you know, of EUCAIM is medical imaging. So this is at the core of the data that we are collecting, but I just want to make sure that it's understood that we are also enhancing data interoperability with other data types.
Thank you so much. We have another very quick one, I think a very practical one for Federica. We have a question asking whether a single institution can submit a grant on a perhaps smaller scale if they have a specific experience in imaging synthesis, for instance, or if consortia are a requirement or prioritized.
Again, for this, I really recommend that you read the guidelines, but I would say the only case where a single institution can apply is an SME. So that's the possibility to have a single applicant, but it has to be an SME, and you need, in any case, to answer abroad the challenge. You cannot just focus, for example, on one part of the technical area on synthetic data. You need to cover also the clinical application and so on. But single SME are allowed in the Pathfinder to apply as a single participant, and actually they are very welcome to do so, because when there is an SME, we are sure that there is a high interest in bringing a product to the market. And you know that the EIC is, our mantra is bringing research to the market. So we pay a lot of attention to that.
Yes, thank you. We have another interesting question from an anonymous attendee who says, our project would focus on multimodal data, but mainly the only imaging modality would be digital pathology. If they're correct, EUCAIM does currently not include digital pathology, so their use of the infrastructure would, of course, be limited. And they assume that this is then also limiting the acceptability of their project idea. Maybe this is a good one where both people from EUCAIM and also Federica can answer.
I can start. So no, in my case, it doesn't limit at all. So you can, if you have a very good project which fits with the requirement of the call, even if you're not able to leverage EUCAIM infrastructure, that's of course not a problem. There might be other infrastructure that fits you, or you might have your own infrastructure, but in my case, there is no problem with that. As long as you cover, as I said, the full package, and you don't bring a project only on digital pathology, that would not fly.
Maybe, thanks, Federica. Maybe, Nacho, we can comment on the link between VVMRI, which is digital pathology, and EUCAIM, and how are we foreseeing that relationship?
Yes, absolutely. VVMRI, Eric, is one of the very active members of our consortium. And we have started this conversation to align catalogs and align the federated search. Actually, we use the same tools, which makes the things feasible, and it was one of the decisions. So they can host the digital pathology data, we can host the radiology data, and we can link in some way the data set. So indeed, I think that this will be, I would say, a very interesting case to demonstrate the multimodality. This is something we are intensively working on, and yeah, having use cases on that will also support our plans.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, we do have quite a number of questions. We, of course, also answered some of them in writing. One other question, maybe this is for you as well, Ignacio. For accepted proposals, what is the expected tier level of access to the data? The person who asked assumed tier 2, but can you maybe shed some insights on this?
But you mean for accessing the data, right? So I mean, the data, the point is the following: tier one, will require that you get in contact with the data holders to, I mean, get the data in some way. Tier two will give you more information and have the guarantee that the data is better aligned with the hyperontology model. And tier three will guarantee that you can immediate access to the data once that you have the access granted. So I mean, we are trying to move tier two to tier three in most of the cases, but I would suggest that I wouldn't say that it will jeopardize the success. Requesting data that is in any of the levels. So the higher the better, because it means that the data is in a more ready and harmonized status. But yeah, the commitment of sharing the data is for all the tiers.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Another very practical question. What is the expected duration of one of the EIC Pathfinder projects? Is this like a 3 or 4 or 5 year project, or is basically anything welcome?
Typically it's 4 years, sometimes less, sometimes 4. You need to tailor it to your research. Normally it's not, rarely we have project of 6 years, also because the budget will be, we have a kind of 30 million, and the budget is about 4 million, a bit more per project. So you have to consider that you have this budget to be spent over a certain number of years, and typically it's around 4.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. Well, another question is, will the grant be able to fund acquisition of new scans, including taking on costs for novel scanners, such as photon counting CT devices, or can they only use retrospective data?
Can you repeat the question? So they want to acquire the hardware or image or new image? I've not got it.
I think from the question, they also want to acquire the new imaging hardware. Yeah.
I think this is more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. Let's see if we have another question. Yes, so there's, for instance, also a question asking if there's already a consortium forming. Oh, no, sorry. Let me rephrase. Do you envisage funding one project for each cancer, or one for that addresses multiple cancers, or multiple projects on the same cancer? I think, Federica, you referred to the guideline you've written before.
I can repeat, but I really encourage people to go and read the material which is out. Also look at the info day, because these things have been already said, but it depends. So if I have like all type of cancer represented with very good technologies, I take different type of cancer. But for example, if I have 3 on mammo, which are excellent, but they cover 3 different technologies, then maybe I can consider taking them as well. So I cannot predict upfront how good the projects which are submitted are. So ideally, I would like all cancer to be represented, but sometimes it is also meaningful to have 2 projects on the same cancer using different technologies, different type of data, and benchmark, for example. So.
Yes, thank you. We do have another question. Perhaps this was missed earlier, from Samir, who asks, how can we leverage available data from EUCAIM to align with the Pathfinder call? Is there a specific direction or approach we should consider? Again, I think this sort of extends to what we discussed earlier, where people want to know how or if to involve EUCAIM. I think the best way is to approach us if you have a particular data set in mind that you can already find and browse through the catalog we have. If you have particular questions for it, just reach out. There should be plenty of ways to contact us to figure out if there are any questions that are still open and remaining, and how we can then tackle them together. Whether that then means there might be some more hands-on involvement from the EUCAIM consortium or not. I think this is very hard to have a one-size-fits-all answer here. Let's see some of the more new questions. Oh, another very practical one. Can a university from the UK lead an application?
If I'm not wrong, but again, you need to check that because this is not my expertise. I think so because UK is now an associated country and they can get funding. So I think so.
Yes. Maybe perhaps not that related to the Pathfinder call, but still an interesting question. We have a comment from Christopher Anne, who has a lot of data on stroke, and he asks, how can we validate and provide the data to EUCAIM? Which I think to an extent might also be relevant for consortia that perhaps bring in new data and are looking for a way to store it somewhere.
Well, this is something we will have to discuss because during the project, EUCAIM is focused on cancer imaging, but we do, as we mentioned, we are extended on an European Digital Innovation Consortium, on an EDIC for the future, and not just on cancer, but on medical imaging, because we do recognize going into degenerative, inflammatory, immune disorders, new types of diseases is extremely relevant for medical imaging. So it will be not only cancer. What we will have to discuss, and that's something maybe with Nacho we can comment, is can we already start with that? I mean, can we allocate data for brain stroke or cardiac studies? And that's something that we didn't start doing that. We are focusing mainly on even screening or diagnosis or treatment, but not on other diseases. But why not? I mean, we can discuss that on the management board, and I will be more than happy to open as soon as possible the platform to other types of considerations. Although, just to share, we are extremely focused on cancer till the end of the project, which will be December 26.
Yes, if I can add, I mean, the hyperontology that defines all the complex model of the information is tailored for cancer data, right? So that is the main reason that for reaching tier 2 and tier 3 of interoperability, I mean, we have the guidelines for cancer data. And yeah, as Luis said, we can explore other cases. And of course, I mean, if they have some relation with cancer, they will be easier. And we can aim to a tier 1 interoperability for those kind of cases.
Yeah, but we can discuss that. I mean,
absolutely.
We are open to discuss, yeah.
Ignacio, I do have another question for you from Anna. She asked if she correctly understood that we also provide some GPU compute capacity, and that they have figured out some requirements for some of their transformers requiring at least H100 GPUs. Is this the kind of capacity or chips that are available?
Not at this moment. I mean, we have, sorry, I don't know but the new version of the GPUs that are, I mean, I think is even, I mean, has similar capacity in terms of memory, not in the number of cores, but we have several of them, and we can apply a concurrent access to those GPUs. It can be explored because we have several at H100, but are not in the EUCAIM facility. But the new ones, I think, that are powerful enough to provide the capacity that you need. If there is a specific requirement with respect to some software dependencies, that's something that maybe we can explore on other providers that we may have, right? Because there are other nodes that are being providing this capacity. Or even there's one prototyping that we are doing now, which is the temporary transfer to a external site, in which if we sign an additional data transfer agreement for a temporary transfer, we can transfer the data to a processing site, given some security guarantees that we are defining, that they have the capacity, make the processing, destroy the data, and get the results back. But we are prototyping this too.
Yeah, also just to add, like, also this is for data that is in the central node, in the reference node, but then also if it's in a federated way, many or the already like federated nodes also have this sort of GPUs. For example, ourselves have 100 GPUs in our federated node, which is part of the infrastructure of EUCAIM as well. So there are different options.
Yes, thank you so much. I think in light of time, we'll have space for 2 more questions, and I think there's one that we can follow up on where we just discussed acquiring new scanners. The person asking clarifies that it is for funding prospective studies, so acquiring new data, not acquiring new hardware. Whether that is eligible or if they are encouraged to only use retrospective data.
No, they can use prospective. Absolutely. Sorry, I thought it was about hardware, and that's
Same for me, but it's good that we were able to clarify.
No, that's very good. Okay.
Yes. And then the last one is a question on whether generative AI techniques must be used, or if traditional supervised learning techniques with convolutional neural nets and methods similar to that are viable as well. And they ask if there's perhaps a definition of what is meant by generative AI, similar to the definition that was given for autonomous agents.
So if you read again the call, there is a line which says that other technique which might be good enough to reach some of the objectives of the challenge are also accepted. Of course, if you want to do synthetic data, I think you need generative AI. So if you have a call which is, if you send a proposal which is completely on let's say, other technique than generative AI, it might be tough. But if you have like a part which is using other techniques and a part which is using generative AI, I think that is still okay. And that's also what we wrote in the challenge. There is a strong push. So there is no, I've not put a definition of generative AI, but there is a strong push at European level for advancing on, these technologies. And I think the project should use some of this technology. It doesn't matter if it is not all based on that, but at least, a small part of the project should leverage that, because otherwise I think you risk to be excluded, not by me, but by the expert.
Yes. Thank you so much. We're at 10:30 on the dot. So I think we don't have any more time for questions, but maybe just to summarize, we will share the recording of this meeting as well as the slides in a PDF format as soon as possible. We'll also do our best to perhaps just include the answers we've given in writing as well, so people can read through the questions. So hopefully that is something that can come in the next day, so that it's not too long. For now, I thank all of our speakers, but maybe I can hand off to Federica and Luis for some closing words.
On my side, I just want to thank you, everyone who attended, and especially the EUCAIM team. I thought the presentation were of very high quality. I learned things myself, although I've listened several times already. I learn every time something new, so thank you very much for that. And I really hope that we find some synergies between some of the projects applying and the infrastructure, because this is why we organize this event. So thank you very much. Thank you, Peter, for coordinating that.
Okay, just only to reinforce, thanks also Federica for all the help on the European Innovation Council and EUCAIM. We are, as we realize we are really willing to help researchers and companies and innovators to develop and validate their tools, and it will be great to find new pathways to do that together with us Innovation Council and the Challenge Portfolio, which is an extremely nice idea, and I think that network of collaborations will enrich the research at the European level. So happy to be part of that.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. With that, we'll close the meeting and we'll have the recording up on our website soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
Bye.
day.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Bye.